With the arrival of Festival of the Lost in 2023, we also got a reduction in cost when focusing exotic engrams. Tier 1, which splits exotics into pools by release year, effectively costs less glimmer, while Tier 2, which allows you to focus a specific exotic, no longer requires an exotic cipher. Now that you're not limited to basically a single Tier 2 focus per week, you may be wondering, what's the best way to focus my exotic engrams? This problem is best broken down by how much time you need to spend to get the required items. In the past, if you already had decent rolls of even the latest exotics, using Rahul's expansion-based focusing probably wouldn't give you an upgrade. Your time was better spent each week trying to get just that one specific focus with your cipher. That restriction has gone away, so the bottleneck has shifted from ciphers to materials and exotic engrams. Now, exotic engrams only exist on a single character, and the whole concept of exotic focusing doesn't really work without it. Materials are shared, but for the sake of the discussion, let's keep it in the context of what you can get done on a single character in a single week. So, how much time does it take to focus an exotic at each tier with the new costs? Let's break it down by what kind of activities you do. Do you regularly do Grandmaster Nightfalls? If so, the answer is pretty straightforward. If you're not comfortable in GMs, hang on, because I will talk about the other common material sources in this video, and some ones that you may not have considered. I will be leaving discussion of how likely you are to get a good exotic for another time, as that requires understanding the armor plug system, innate exotic stats and foci, as well as high variance things like build crafting importance and stat priorities. On a single character, you get 3 guaranteed engrams from rituals each week. Assuming each ritual takes 15 minutes, including waiting and load times, that means 2 hours and 15 minutes each week for your guaranteed engrams. I don't have hard data on exotic engram drop rates in the wild, but on average I get 2 random drops per week regardless of what activity I'm doing. Usually I get these random drops while trying to farm materials or grinding rituals or raids. With all this in mind, it's reasonable to say that any player can get 5 engrams per week, but I'm only considering the time to get the guaranteed drops when building the time estimates. I just assume that you're getting the drops as you're doing these activities, or in your other playtime. If you spend any amount of time in endgame PvE, you probably already have a stock of Ascendant shards. Master raids and dungeons drop them at the end of encounters, but Grandmaster Nightfalls are by far the most consistent if you're maximizing material gain. They also give progress on ritual exotic engrams. Either way, you have access to enough materials that Tier 1 focusing probably isn't worth it to you. It only has an, at best, 1 in 6 chance at getting the specific exotic you want. Under the new material costs, you could spend more on Tier 1 just trying to get the exotic you want, even if you want multiple from a given year. Setting Glimmer cost aside, Tier 1 costs half as much as Tier 2, so you would need to be targeting over half the exotics in a year for the risk of an unwanted drop to be worth it. Let me put it this way, are you using Cadmus Ridge Lancecap the same amount as Abeyant Leap? No, I didn't think so. GMs grant 1 to 2 Ascendant shards per completion, with 2 being nearly guaranteed from Platinum rewards. Assuming it takes 20 to 30 minutes to finish a GM, you're looking at 2 to 6 golf balls per hour. So with the best of luck, running GMs quickly and getting 2 each time, you can get enough to focus each of your weekly 5 engrams in an hour and 40 minutes. I want to highlight that with the potential of Platinum rewards and double rewards weeks, the new exotic focusing costs basically make 1 GM equal to 1 exotic focus. Add to that you're nearly guaranteed an exotic from each Platinum GM already, and you have a solid way to get a nice mix of targeted loot and happy accident drops that can push you to finally make that Verity's Brow meme build for PvP. Then, in total, your time for 5 focused exotics is 3 to 6 hours, but you probably won't go over 4 unless your luck is bad. If you don't want to count on random drops, then take your time down to 3 focused exotics in 3 to 4 hours. You could reasonably split this up into 6 play sessions in a week, each no more than an hour. And honestly, that's a great return considering you are getting focused loot as well as endgame drops like adept weapons on top of that. If endgame PvE or LFG isn't your cup of tea, the answers to how to focus your exotic engrams and how much time you need to get materials changes based on what kind of activity you want to do. Hero Nightfalls are match-made, drop 2 whole enhancement prisms with a chance at a third, and 4 cores. Each Nightfall takes about 15 minutes, but they can count towards your ritual engram progress. So, if you chose to do Nightfalls for all your engrams, you would get 21 enhancement prisms with 6 cores left after conversion, all in the same time as our baseline, a little over 2 hours. Legend Lost sectors provide guaranteed materials for platinum completions. It's possible to get very fast at some Lost sectors. Hell, I find speedrunning them fun myself. With only 3 tries, I got Bay of Drowned Wishes down to 3 minutes on Legend and 5 minutes on Master. The guaranteed drops from these Lost sectors are roughly half of what they are from Nightfalls, so if you can get below the 5-minute mark, even on Legend, I would suggest farming these, as they can also drop slot-focused exotics. Assuming you did Hero Nightfalls to get your engrams, you would only need 40 minutes or so to round out the material costs to focus all your engrams at Tier 1. If you want to focus at Tier 2, you're going to be spending much more time getting materials. If you want to get them through Lost sectors, you need to spend another 2 hours on top of the nearly 3 you've already spent getting engrams and materials. Compare this to Hero Nightfalls, where you would need to spend roughly 3 hours for the same gain. So, combining Hero Nightfalls with Lost sectors can get you 3 Tier 1 focuses in as many hours, or 3 2-tier focuses in about 5. If you want to focus any extra exotic engrams you get along the way, that of course will mean more time farming. This year's Festival of the Lost brought a new way to focus exotics by using candy. By giving your grandma some sugar, a lot of sugar, you can get a random exotic from a certain slot. If you're worried you missed out, don't be. It's not nearly as efficient as anything else we talked about. I took stock of my candy at the beginning and end of a play session doing various activities. Crucible Quick Play, Grandmaster Nightfalls, and some haunted sectors. On average, I earned 1300 candy per hour and was able to get at least 1 haunted engram. So in 2 hours, you can get 1 focused exotic with about a 1 in 8 chance of getting exactly the one you want. Compared to even Hero Nightfalls, that's twice as much time for a worse chance at hitting your target. Given the event-limited weapons and Memento also use the same engrams and currency, your time is probably better spent farming those in the future. What about Vex Strike Force? It's great for filling out exotics, but there is no way to focus what exotic you get once you fill out your collections. On top of that, the event itself has random timing and doesn't happen 2 out of 7 days of the week. It's fun if you can find it, but it's not consistent enough to be an option for me. Now, none of these numbers are hard and fast. RNG factors into nearly every step of this, but I've tried to err on the side of bad luck where it seems right. The TLDR here makes sense. Higher difficulty activities get you better loot faster. Bungie has engineered the Cryptarch exotic focusing to mitigate RNG better if you put in more time or effort. If you've been playing for a while, not only is none of this news to you, but you probably have nearly optimized exotics for at least 1 class already. Going forward, the Ghost mod costs are changing, making things like Core Harvester more convenient to keep on your Ghost. This should make it easier to get materials if you're bigger on PvP than PvE. We may also see improvements to exotic focusing in events, but I'm not holding my breath for that. Still, your Ghost finding some spare change under the miles of corpses you leave behind may help you get those last few stat points you want for a no wasted stats type spread. It has been a long time since my last video on Lost Sectors and exotic farming. Back then, we faced the issue of ballooning pools of exotics in the daily rotator with no recourse for focusing. Now, Tier 1 circumvents that issue by providing an option that divides the pool into different time frames, so each focusing pool is inherently limited in size. Tier 2 is frankly just shy of a buildcrafter's wet dream. The more I talk about it, the more I realize I love the tiered focusing system because it allows for this kind of cost-benefit analysis that, let's be real, is kinda useful to all Destiny players, even if you aren't a dad. Destiny is comfort food. Don't scarf it down all at once or you might get sick. Thank you for watching. Did you floss today? If you didn't, you have to subscribe. And you still have to floss too. I've seen your eating habits.